This marks my 3-year anniversary, and typically I am not a nostalgic, sentimental type of person. You know, if it happened, then great, we kind of move on. But for whatever reason, this week, then I've been thinking a lot over the past 3 years. Been thinking a lot about you and this church, and me personally, and me and Brianna and our family, and just all that God has done. And a few weeks ago, we got family photos, like I'm sure you do, and was looking at them, and then I went back, and I remember we got family photos about 3 weeks before we moved out here. And so I put them side by side. I wanted just to show you kind of today, Chris, and then 3 years ago, Chris. So go ahead and put that family photo up there. Yeah, so that's me on the left, and then me on the right of the family. Now, on the left, let me tell you what I'm thinking. I'm thinking to myself, I've just quit my job. I took a new job. We just had a baby, and I got a smile for this stupid picture, all right? Something like that. On the right, it was me 3 weeks ago, and you can see how the kids have changed. Brianna's still glowing as ever, but that's us right there. Now, here's my thought. I thought about what would Chris today say to Chris 3 years ago in light of everything that's happened in the past 3 years. And a few things I thought about. Chris today would tell Chris 3 years ago, listen, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs, a lot of highs and lows, but God is faithful and will take you every step of the way. Another thing I'd tell Chris 3 years ago is listen, over the next 3 years, Chris, you're going to meet some of the most amazing people on the planet that you have ever met. You're going to get to serve with them. You're going to get to be a part of a wonderful community of people. And the third thing I'd tell him is listen, Chris, the next 3 years are going to be some of the most fun you have ever had in ministry. Hang on for the ride of your lifetime because 3 years go by really, really quick. And I'd also tell him, listen, Brianna is going to buy 13 ducks and 15,000 bees. Just deal with it, all right? Just kind of smile and be a good husband, all right? That was 3 years ago, and fast forward to today. And so I get to share today my heart, and we try to do this once a year, talk about our mission and our vision and our values as a church. And it's one of the most favorite things I get to do because, honestly, I get to share with you my heart and how God has wired me. Now, every pastor, person in ministry, God gives either a verse or verses or a story in the Bible that inspires them to ministry. It's the reason they got in. It's the reason they get up every day. It's the reason they go serve in whatever capacity of ministry they're serving in. God gave me some verses as well. So I'm going to share those with you. So you're going to understand my heart. You're going to see how my personality and background intersects with where God has me today, serving in ministry. And if you've been here for a while, today's just a reminder of why you're a part of this church, of why you love seeing Jesus change lives. And if you're new or checking it out, honestly, you could not have picked a better Sunday to check out MLC because you get to see what makes us tick. And you get to see what makes us a family, and honestly why I love being a part of this MLC family. So if you've got a Bible, go ahead and grab it, open up to Matthew chapter 9. If you don't have it, it will be up on the screen. In Matthew chapter 9, we're going to start in verse 9. These are verses that are extremely personal to me. So you get an inside look at my heart and my mind today. In Matthew chapter 9, now Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew is written by a guy named Matthew, who was a disciple, a follower of Jesus, writes about the life, ministry, and accounts of Jesus. And in Matthew 9, verse 9, Matthew writes about when Jesus called him to be a disciple. So verse 9 is almost like an autobiography of Matthew writing about when Jesus called him. Matthew 9, we'll pick it up in verse 9. Here's what he writes. He says, as Jesus was walking along, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at his tax collector's booth. Follow me and be my disciple, Jesus said to him. So Matthew got up and followed him. Now, if you've grown up in church, you've probably read that 100 times. You go, oh yeah, that's cool. Matthew followed Jesus. This is a really big deal. And let me tell you why it's a big deal for Matthew, and maybe even a little bit bigger deal than for other disciples, especially the disciples that were fishermen. Because the disciples that were fishermen, if this whole Jesus thing did not work out, they could go back to their day jobs. When Matthew leaves being a tax collector to follow Jesus, if Jesus doesn't work out, he cannot go back. See, as a tax collector, he was already hated by his Jewish countrymen because he would tax them higher than they should and take a portion of their money for himself, working for the Roman government. Now to follow this guy named Jesus, he's now snubbing the Roman government. So he's now a man without a place to land if Jesus' thing doesn't work out. But Jesus is walking by and he says, follow me. And in this moment, Matthew is wealthy. He's got friends. He's essentially has everything that you could want in life. Jesus calls him and he leaves everything to fully follow Jesus. And that's the mission statement of our church, is to lead people to fully follow Jesus. Men and women and kids and students to leave everything and to pursue Jesus in every area of their life. And if you've ever been around somebody who's made that decision, right, to follow Jesus for the first time, or maybe deeper in their marriage or finances or work or purpose or their thought life or their character or integrity, to follow Jesus fully, to abandon everything else and go after him. If you've ever been around that, it's a very inspiring, almost an intoxicating thing to be around. Because you see people take a step of faith, and you see people take a step of obedience. And to see that, it's why we exist as a church, is to lead people to do that. So we want you, whether you're here in this room or watching online, to take one step closer to fully following Jesus, to go after him and abandon everything else. Now, last Sunday when I had the weekend off, Brianna and I decided to take Sunday afternoon, and we went up to Helen and went up there and did all the shops. Now, whenever I say that to people, they're like, oh yeah, we've done that a bunch of times. Well, that was our first time to ever do that. I'm just going to tell you guys, it was awesome. We had a great time. Went up there, blue sky, sunshine, babysitter watching the kids. So we went up there and we do what we always do whenever we go to a new town. We find a really good restaurant and we eat there, we hang out and enjoy just kind of the people walking by. We finished eating and then we decided to get a cup of coffee. Stopped by a local coffee shop, got some coffee, hanging out, walking by. Finished our coffee, and then we're walking, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you after you have a good meal and then a good cup of coffee. All of a sudden, we had this crazy craving for chocolate. Yeah, like candy, fudge, chocolate, something. I looked at her, I go, babe, I just stopped. I was like, I got to have some candy. And she goes, I need some chocolate fudge or something. I was like, yeah, let's go. And so we started looking. We walked in the store, and it had clocks. And he goes, well, we sell clocks. I go, but do you sell candy? No. Do you sell candy clocks? No. All right, then I walked out. Go to the next store. They had like vases and knickknacks. All right, is there any candy here? No, there's not. So we're walking around, and literally we became hangry for candy, which is a dangerous combination. So we're walking around, all of a sudden I stop, and I squeeze her hand. I go, babe, look. And like a beam of light from heaven shone down on this sign, and it said, homemade chocolate fudge. She said, I've never been more in love with you than right now at this moment. And I stood there like Superman with a cape flying. I go, I found it. So we walk into this little homemade, and I go, ma'am, we're looking for some candy. And I kid you not, she smiled, and like an eye glistened, like, Willy Wonka's factory or whatever. She goes, you've come to the right place. And she opened it up, and all it was missing was the chocolate milk river in this place. Other than that, it had all the chocolate and candy. We walked in there, and it was amazing. But in those moments, those 15, 20 minutes, nothing else mattered but finding candy or chocolate that moment. And for Matthew, in this moment, when Jesus calls him, nothing else matters. What the Roman government would say about the money, about his friends, Jesus calls, he gets up, he leaves everything, and he fully follows after Jesus. And that is my heart for myself personally, for you here in this room watching online, that you and I, that we would be men and women that fully follow Jesus, not out of convenience, not when it works for us, not on Sunday morning for an hour because we live in the South and that's the thing to do, but going, man, I'm going after Jesus no matter what. And that's where we get our mission statement. Now, the story gets interesting and really cool in the next verse. Look at verse 10. It says, later, Matthew invited Jesus and his disciples to his home as dinner guests, along with many tax collectors and other disreputable sinners. But when the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with such scum? This is Matthew's realization of what the religious people in town thought of him and his buddies. Jesus shows up and they go, man, why are you guys hanging out with such scum? The sinners, the tax collectors. Jesus overhears and answers verse 12. When Jesus heard this, he said, healthy people don't need a doctor, sick people do. Then he added, Now go and learn the meaning of this scripture. I want you to show mercy, not offer sacrifices. For I've come to call not those who think they're righteous, but those who know they are sinners. See, Matthew had a life-changing encounter with Jesus, forever changed his life and follows Jesus. Then it dawns on Matthew, if Jesus changed my life, certainly he can change the life of my friends. But his friends were not welcome in the synagogues. His friends were not welcome around the religious leaders. So Matthew did what the only thing he knew he could do was, in order to bring Jesus to his friends, he created an environment. He created a dinner party. Now, if you've grown up in church, I need you to do me just a favor for a second. Get the idea of a church party out of your head. All right? So just kind of so do not think sheet cake and fruit punch and casseroles. All right? Kind of get that out. This is a party that notorious, disreputable sinners would enjoy. Does that make sense? You're like, well, I don't want to say yes. All right, it makes sense, all right? This is the type of party. And he throws this dinner party and invites Jesus. Why? Because he wants Jesus to change his friends' lives. And our vision as a church, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a church where life-change stories are written every single week. Kids environments, student environments, in groups and at homes, and Celebrate Recovery, on mission trips, here at Sunday morning worship service. We're trying to create an environment that we know Jesus changed your lives. We want it to be a safe environment where you can bring friends, families, loved ones to go, Jesus changed my life. I trust he can change yours. See, the other disciples, they could get Jesus into a fishing boat. Only Matthew could get him into this party. He brought Jesus where nobody else could take him. And in that moment, his goal was for Jesus to change his friends' lives. And that is our vision statement. To create a church, to create environments where life-change stories are written every single week. And these verses, why they mean so much to me is because the first part of my career, the first 8 years of my career, I spent in construction, land development, real estate. I spent the majority of my time hanging out with friends like Matthew had. That's how I hung out. Now, I went to church and small group and all that stuff, but the circles I ran in were the circles like the Matthews, those guys. And so 10 years ago when I get into ministry, man, my heart still breaks for individuals like that. And so when it comes to people God places on my mind, I think about people that Matthew invited to his party. And I want those individuals to walk into the doors of the church. I want to walk into the doors of their business. I want to see Jesus get connected with those individuals, step out of the way, and watch him change their life. And so if you're here today, you're watching online, and you would be considered a little rough around the edges, you and I would get along really, really well. If you hit your thumb with a hammer, and the first words out of your mouth are not, praise the Lord, you and I would get along very, very well. If you're here today and you're a little skeptical of church and really skeptical of preachers, you and I would get along really, really well. That's just how God has wired me and how God has molded. So one of my most favorite things is when people know this about me and they invite me to places where there are people like that. They trust me and they're comfortable and they say, hey, I've got a friend, I've got a family member, I've got a loved one. Can you go out to lunch? Can you go have coffee? Can you meet with them? Because my job is to sit there and go, let me tell you what Jesus has done. To sit around individuals that have all the money, have all the fame, have all the power, have everything they could ever want, but are missing something. I get to roll in and smile and say, let me tell you what you're missing. And this is Jesus walking toward these notorious sinners, these disreputable people that the religious people go, man, I can't believe it. Jesus walks in and goes, listen, I'm here to change your life. And that's what we're trying to do, what we're trying to create as a church. That environment where people, kids, students, adults, senior citizens walk in and go, man, there's something different here. We get out of the way and say, let's watch Jesus change their life. Now, that picture that I showed up there, the biggest change in those two pictures from us 3 years ago to us today, the biggest change is in my littlest son, Micah. Because you see, when we interviewed for this church job, we had to make a video to send in. I had to make this video when my wife, Brianna, was 9 months ready to pop pregnant. And the last thing a 9-month lady who's pregnant wants to do is make a video for somebody who's going to critique whether you would be a good fit or not. And so I was like, well, we got to do it. So she was awesome, and we made this little 5-minute video. A couple of days later, Micah was born. 8 weeks later, we were moving out here. And so we move out here, roll up here 3 years ago when Micah was 8 weeks old. And so go from 8 weeks to now 3 years old, he has changed the most. And you know this if you've had little kids. He's developed a voice. He's developed a personality. He's developed what has made him unique. Now, he's obviously definitely an Emmitt. He's part of the family, but he's very, very unique. And all of our kids are, but Micah, man, he's picked up on something that makes him really unique. And for whatever reason, my 3-year-old Micah has this crazy, weird fascination with swords and knives. Whenever we fly, we have to empty out his diaper bag, all right? It's like, you can't check that on the plane. But he's just got this weird, so he would go around and he'd reach into our drawer and pull out a butter knife and just carry it around. You can't do that. And so we've got him a bunch of foam and plastic little swords and knives that he hides all over the house. In his bed, under his pillow, in the car seat, just in case somebody attacks, he's ready. And he just loves swords and knives. And a few weeks ago, we just come back from one of our other kids' sporting events. And I sit down with Mike, and I was like, hey, buddy, you're getting to that age, when you get a little older, what sport do you want to play? Baseball, basketball, football, soccer? What do you like, buddy? And he looks at me and he goes, Dad, I want a sword fight. So if you know of a fencing league for 3-year-olds, let me know. We're looking to get into travel fencing, all right, whatever. So if you know that, let me know afterwards. He would love that. But it's that moment where he's an Emmitt, but he's unique and different. Same with our church. We are a church that preaches Jesus and loves people, but the truth of the matter is there are some awesome churches in this area that do the exact same thing, that preach Jesus and love people. In this area, there's awesome ones like Oak Grove Baptist, Brownsbridge, First Redeemer, North Point, Grace Point, First Baptist Coming. And I mention those because I know all the senior pastors there at that church, and I can tell you that those churches, they preach Jesus and love people, but they all do it a little differently. They're all unique. They all have their own personality and styles, just like we do here at MLC. We preach Jesus and we love people, but we have developed our own personality. And over the past 3 years, you and I together have developed that. We've figured out our voice, we figured out our style and our personality. We call them values, but they're what make us us. They're what make us unique. We preach Jesus, we love people, but we do it in this way. And there are 5 values, and we just put them in easy to remember sentences. And the first value that is our personality, our church, is this: we are for our community. We are for our community. We're not just a church in it, but we are a church for our community. So we are for elementary, middle school, and high schools, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, Little Leagues, dance clubs. We're for local businesses and restaurants. We are for our community. We're for nonprofits. We're for firefighters. We're for police officers. We're for paramedics. We love being a church, not just in Forsyth County, but who is for Forsyth County. In a couple of weeks, as Lisa mentioned, we're going to do a whole week of serving. In the past, we've always done one Saturday, but man, 4 hours on a Saturday doesn't always work for everybody. So let's go a whole week. Let's take small groups and people and kids and go into our community. Let them know that our church is for our community. Second one is this: we treat everyone like family. We treat everyone like family. Now, whenever I ask people what they like about our church, sometimes they say the music. Never do they say the preaching. Whatever, I'm fine with that. That's cool. 95% of the time, they say this: well, it just feels warm, or it just feels friendly, or it's kind of like family. I was like, it feels like Olive Garden. Your family. Anyway, so your family. We want you to feel like family when you walk in. We treat everyone like family. We don't care if you're a longtime saint. When you were born and the doctor spanked you on the rear, if you sang Amazing Grace and gave a tithe, that's cool. You're more than welcome here. On the flip side of the coin, and I say this all the time, and a lot of people get this, but you're welcome here even if you still smell like Saturday night. That guy knows what Saturday night smells like. Yeah, he does. I see you. I know you too. And then some of you over here, you still, and you're going, well, can we say, absolutely. You people walk in, you're going, Saturday night was good to you. Well, I'm glad you're here. This is who I want at our church. Anyone and everyone. The longtime saints still smell like Saturday night and everywhere in between. We are a church where everyone should feel welcome and should feel treated like family. Next one is this. Next one is we love authenticity. We love authenticity. Honestly, we just think it's way easier to be ourselves than anybody else. We think you should do the same too. We think you should just be who you are, how God has created you, how God has wired you. Figure that out and be yourself. We're going to be ourselves up on the stage, off the stage, in the lobby. The people you see up on stage are the same people in the grocery stores, at the movie theater, at the gym. The only difference, and the only thing that may not be real, and I get this a lot, is whenever I see people in public, like their number one comment to me is, you're a lot shorter in real life. I was like, well, you don't have to tell me that. Like, I know I'm 5'9". That's a 15-foot screen. So other than that, pretty much the same. So we love to be authentic. We love to be real. We want you to do the same. We want to be a church when people walk in, they're going, you know what? Like them or not, they are who they are. They are authentic. Fourth one is this. We like to smile, but we prefer to laugh. We like to smile, but we prefer to laugh. And if you're new and you read like our emails or signage in the lobby or Facebook posts, and you're wondering, asking yourself, do they mean to be sarcastic? Absolutely we do. Absolutely we do. Why? Because we take what we do very, very serious. We don't take ourselves very serious at all. We like to smile, but we prefer to laugh. And the reason why, honestly, this is my own opinion. You can disagree with me if you want to, but I think personally that Christians should be the happiest, most joyful people on the planet, personally. And you and I have been around a lot of people who are Christians that are like this, scowls on their faces, and you're going, are you a Christian? Yep. Well, how do you know? Because I've got the joy of the Lord in my heart. Whoa, just unwind a little bit. Now, don't miss this. Matthew invited Jesus to his dinner party. Nobody invites a party pooper to the party. Like, if he's wanting Jesus to change his friend's life, if Jesus is, Debbie Downer, if he's a party pooper, he's not going to invite Jesus, and Jesus is going to go show up and going, hello, what are you doing over there? Hello, that's not really good in the synagogue. I mean, Jesus is going to show up. He's going to smile. He's going to laugh. He's going to be a magnetic person. Matthew knows this. So he's not inviting a party pooper to his party. He's inviting someone that's going, man, he can change their lives. So we want to be a church here locally or watching digitally that we smile, but honestly, we laugh. And we take what we do very, very serious. I understand that, but we don't take ourselves very serious at all. And so we smile, we laugh, we cut up. We want to have a good time. That is part of who we are. And then the last one is this, is we serve, we give, and we invite to see more life change. We serve, we give, we invite to see more life change. There are people here today that have been here for the past 3 years, that have been here way before that, have been doing those things to allow us to do what we do today. They serve, they faithfully show up and serve, and kids and students and coffee and on mission trips, and they run sound and lights and cameras, and they sing and they serve faithfully, volunteers above and beyond what they do for their job or what they do in school. They serve. Very generous people around here give, and they give faithfully week in and week out. Our new kids wing back there, we're building out of cash because you have given to date almost $1 million above and beyond what typically is brought in. And the reason is because there's very generous people that give. And you invite people. Because Jesus has changed your life, and so you're like Matthew, you go, man, he's changed my life. I want my friends, I want my family, I want my spouse, I want them to experience that same life change. And that's who we are. That's what makes us unique. That's our voice. That's our personality. And so if you've been coming for a while, then you go, yeah, I get that. That is us. And if you're new or kicking the tires, then that's who we are. Like us or not, at least we're authentic. At least you know where we stand. And I always tell people, listen, if MLC isn't for you, find a church that preaches Jesus and loves people and get plugged in. But also, we want you to be a part of our family. And the reason why is because, man, we think it's a blast to see Jesus change lives. So as I think about the future, let me tell you what I see. Because for the past 3 years has been a really incredible fun ride, but I think about the future, and that's part of my job as the leader to look forward to the future. Now, if you know me well, you know that I don't mince words or waste words or say things that I really don't mean. I say exactly what I mean and mean exactly, what I say. And so when I say this about the future, I don't say it lightly, but I'll tell you this about the future. I am more excited now, today as I stand here on the stage, than I have been over the past 3 years for the future of our church. I am more excited now about where our church is going, who God is bringing through our doors, the leaders he has brought around, the staff, the ministries, the things going on now than I have been over the past 3 years. And I've talked to Brianna about this and some of our staff and leadership, and I can't explain it. Like I wish I could say, pinpoint going, this is it. But there's just something going on. There's just some excitement. There's just people God's bringing through. God's just doing something in our midst that I wake up every single week and going, God, I'm so excited, so humble and grateful that I get to be a part of this. And so as I look forward to the next 3 years, 6 years, 9, 12, into the future, I'm more excited now about the future where God is leading us than I ever have before. And 3 years ago, about this time, I stood up here on this stage and I read a verse, and I want to close with it this morning. It's out of Ephesians 3. And it's a verse that I had prayed for our church, and I'm here to tell you I've seen God answer it, and I trust that he will continue to answer it in the future. Ephesians 3, verse 20, Paul writes this. He says, now all glory to God who is able, through his mighty power at work within us, to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask or think. Glory to him in the church and in Christ Jesus through all generations forever and ever. Amen. The past 3 years has been one unbelievable ride. And I'm looking forward to the future and what God has for us. And here's why I believe the past 3 years has been so fun and so incredible. If you've been here for the past 3 years, you know God has done some wild miracles that can only be explained by the hand of God. Like there's no strategy or brilliant leadership principle. It's just God going, I'll do what I want to do. And the reason why that has happened is what I see for two reasons. Number one, purely by the grace of God. And number two, because of amazing people like you. You come together, you lock arms, you go, we really like seeing Jesus change lives. What if we locked arms and did that together? And over the past 3 years, he has accomplished through his mighty power at work within us, but he has accomplished infinitely more, honestly, than I could ever think or ask or imagine. And it's just as I look back over the short 3 years, man, I am so excited about the future and where God has taken this church. And over the past 3 years, a lot has happened. And it goes by really, really fast. And things have happened in ministries and different things have started. And so our video team put a little snippet together just of the past 3 years, not the past 3 months, but the past 3 years of what it looks like when people like you come together, serve, give, and invite to see Jesus change lives. This is what more life change looks like. Take a look.